Hey everyone, it's your favorite rogue Chirpy here, and this time I'm bringing you the POV of our Mythic Kurog kill with the tips and tricks I used to be able to get rank 17 across all classes and specs at the time of recording this video. If this video helped you out, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on more tips you can use to be a rank 1 rogue like me. If you want to see live gameplay of cutting edge level content, be sure to follow me on twitch.tv/chirpytv. Hope to see you all there soon. Now on to the video. First, I chose to run a standard raid cleave build where I take numbing poison due to our other rogue running atrophic poison. This way we have both utility poisons covered. The rest of the build is a pretty standard M+ build, minus not taking tricks of the trade. I'll put a link to this build down in the description if you want to copy it for yourself. The second choice I made for this fight is to not use my whetstone trinket. I will show you the build right here. So I chose to use the controlled current technique trinket because when I used double on use trinkets, it was making things desync in a weird way, so I opted for a passive trinket to combine with my Storm Eater's boon. There are still some players under the assumption that the Court of Stars ring Jeweled Signet of Melandris is the best rogue ring, but this should be proof that it isn't. I'm using a crit verse and a crit mastery ring. I'd be using 2 crit verse rings if I had them, but I don't, so this is the best thing I have for now. And the reason for this is that Mastery is actually a good stat now for Outlaw, especially on Cleave due to our Ambidexterity talent right here, which gives main Ghost an additional 5% chance to strike while Blade Flurry is active. And Kurog Grim Totem is primarily a Cleave fight, so you're constantly having that up, you're getting that extra 5% chance from main Ghost to strike, and that extra damage comes from how much Mastery value you have. That's all for the build and itemization choices I made. Now let's break down the actual encounter. Okay, so let's start by looking at the breakdown for Kurog. I got a pretty decent parse on this. I got 98%, which is rank 7 of rogues, rank 18 overall classes. And let's look at exactly what I pressed. So overall in the whole fight, Blade Flurry made up a large percentage of my damage. But then after that we have Ambush, Dispatch, Pistol Shot, and so on. I got 3 Storm Eater boons out of this fight. I used 1 on pull, 1 on the first rock phase, and 1 at the very end when the ice mob spawns. So let's look at the damage just onto boss. Right here you can see Ambush made up the grand percentage of my damage with the least amount of casts, Dispatch second, Pistol Shot third, and then Melee's fourth, and so on and so on. Okay, so we start the pull here by shrouding our group in as normal. We're going to pre-adrenaline rush and roll the bones at the very last second, start our ambushes, get between the eyes up, more ambushes, slice and dice, and now we start our rotation. As soon as the ad spawns here is when we're going to start pressing our potion, Blade Flurry, and start cranking out our damage. So I pop every single thing when this ad spawns. We're going all in because we need to get our potion on cooldown so that way we have it available for our last phase as well. We're going to continue making sure that we keep up slice and dice, making sure we keep up between the eyes on our main target, and spending dispatches till the very last second where we have to reapply between the eyes again. You can see I'm just cleaving off the main target. Here I'm assigned to soak the first puddle with cloak, so I do that. And we just keep on going with our rotation and trying to milk these good buffs that we're getting the entire time. So right here I have the Slice and Buried Treasure buff. Or sorry, Sinister Strike and Buried Treasure buff. And that's a pretty decent combination. Anything with Sinister Strike is usually worth holding, because that gives you more ambush procs and gives you more pistol procs because of it. So you can continue the rotation of going back and forth between your 2 procs a lot easier if you have the Sinister Strike buff. I got lucky, rolled Sinister Strike again with the Skull and Crossbones there, so we are just milking this damage going. We get pretty lucky with some of the dances here too. We don't have to run out with the fire, so we're able to stay on the boss, increase our damage more. We just have to make sure that right here I go left, I dodge all the fire. The people with the fire have to run out and go to the right side, so that was really lucky on my part. I get pretty lucky with a lot of the fires in this fight. So that's a pretty big reason why I was able to parse so well on here. Now that the ad's dead, we're just milking the boss a little bit more, trying to squeeze out some more damage before he phases and we go into intermission. We drag him over here to switch out which ads we get for the intermission. Once the ads spawn, we're going to be focusing down the thunder ad as much as possible while cleaving off the other ads. So right here you can see I'm holding my Blade Flurry until the next target comes into range. That way I don't waste any Blade Flurry uptime. And we stick on the Ravager. I use my Blade Rush to get up to him to make sure I can stay in melee and keep my boss uptime. If you saw earlier on the logs, I had 99.8% uptime on this fight. So that's pretty good considering. Again, I get pretty lucky here. I don't get the fire, so I get to stay on the boss, but we do get a pretty bad bait for the Thunder ad there. So instead of running across the map, I just put some damage into the Blazing Fiend for now while waiting for the Thunder ad to teleport back to us. The main thing that you have to realize right here, when I switched to the Blazing Fiend, I made sure to put Between the Eyes on him, and then I saved my next Between the Eyes to put back on the Ravager because the Ravager is our top priority here. So it's very important that as an Outlaw, you're not pressing your damage buttons rotation on a target that doesn't have Between the Eyes on them. That makes up a huge percent of crit chance, and that is not something that you can afford to be losing when you're hitting your main targets and cleaving off them as well. So now that the Thunder ad is dead, we're focusing down the Blazing Fiend. That way we can get into the next phase and put some more damage on the boss. You could also notice right now my Storm Eater's Boon Trinket is ready, but I'm not going to use it just yet because there is a higher value situation coming up shortly. We have to make sure that we stay behind the boss at all times here as well to dodge the Thundering Smashes. That way we don't get one shot. It's not a good time for anybody. The second ad spawns. I'm still holding on to my boon, and the reason for this is there will be a phase shortly coming up where multiple ads spawn. Right here, the Erupting Bedrock, I don't have to run out of it because I have Cloak up, so to keep higher uptime on the boss, I cloak the first ring, and I'm able to keep on doing damage to the boss. Continue doing our rotation, monitoring our Roll the Bones buffs, and we're re-rolling whenever we get a bad combination, and we're keeping it whenever we have anything that's good that helps us get procs. Right now, I'm getting it ready for Boon. I roll. I get a really lucky 5 roll here. Unfortunately, the boss runs out of range, so I have to switch to something else for a little bit. I get my Blade Flurry up. It's very important that when you're setting up this part of the phase, that you get a fresh Roll the Bones so you don't have to re-roll during the damage, and you get a Blade Flurry up as soon as the ads are in range, and that should last the entire time that the ads are alive if your team is doing enough damage. Right here, we're doing the dance with the Erupting Bedrock again. And we continue going. I milk this 5 buff to the very, very last second. And then as soon as it's gone, I get another lucky roll with combo points and CDR. So that's very beneficial to being able to maintain doing a high amount of damage. Right away, I pop Adrenaline Rush again, and that gives me my loaded dice buff. And that makes sure that on the next time that I have to reroll, I guarantee getting 2 Roll the Bones buffs. Again, same thing here. As soon as the ads spawn, I'm making sure I have a decent amount of time on my Roll the Bones buff so I don't have to re-roll in the middle of doing heavy damage on ad cleave. And I'm also making sure that I have a fresh Blade Flurry running, so that way I don't have to reapply Blade Flurry while killing the ads. This is something that you need to be using in M+ and in Raid. Anytime there's cleave, you really want to refresh that buff as much as possible when you are about to enter a heavy cleave fight. Again, right there, got pretty unlucky. I almost bled out. My Cheat Death popped, but I stayed alive because Cheat Death is awesome. And we get the next wave of ads for this intermission. We're focusing down the Frozen Destroyer here, and when he puts out the absolute 0 rings right now, I'm going to be soaking on the star marker, and all I have to do is use Feint to live it with the other rogue. So that is pretty good there, and you don't want to get 2 stacks of that. So if you soak one of those rings, you can't soak the next one because you will turn into a block of ice, and that is not a good time. If you get the browner rings around there, you have to run them out of the group and place them as far away as possible, so that way you don't cleave your group to death. Right here, I already have 1 stack, so I make sure I stand out of these circles so I don't get dead. More ads spawn. I make sure that I have enough time on my Roll the Bones buff, which I do. Get a fresh Blade Flurry going, and we are cleaving this down. We're making sure that we're always putting between the eyes as our first finisher whenever we're switching our add targets. Right there, I do get one of the enveloping earth, so I have to run that out of the group, but I grapple hook back really quick to make sure that I can stay on the boss and don't lose any uptime. Here, I'm holding onto my between the eyes, so that way I can reapply it to Kurog as soon as he is available. There is no point in reapplying between the eyes when there's 12 seconds left on the buff on the target you're hitting. You get a lot more value out of pressing your dispatch. So right here, I instantly put between the eyes on, I get a reroll right at the end, and now we want to be spamming between the eyes because we have the shark fin buff. So it's okay to reapply it, because you get the extra shark fin buff there, it's a lot more value. I get an instant boon here, as soon as the ad spawns. If I did it a little bit faster, I could have saved using my cloak, but unfortunately I had to use cloak there to avoid getting stunned by these orbs. You just have to dodge them, whatever direction they're coming out, you need to stand in between them, and if you get hit by them, it's like a 6-second stun. So you really want to avoid that. And it comes out of both the boss and the ad, so you need to watch for both. Luckily we have acrobatic strikes as Outlaw, so we can make use of our range a little bit to stay on the boss while still dodging. Right here we are soaking one of the puddles, and we are continuing to just pump the boss. We are only using Blade Flurry here, not to do extra ad damage, but because of that extra 5% main ghost damage. That helps us funnel more damage onto the boss. So it technically is a single DPS increase to use Blade Flurry on this section, and the main reason is just you get more main ghost chance. Here we have double dodge, so we're watching the boss and the far ad, and now we just have to finish the guy up. We're pushing every button we have, just slamming everything that we have, just to finish off the last 5% here. And that is it. That's everything that we did to get this boss down. The main things that you need to focus on: keeping uptime, and making sure your rotation is good, making sure you have a fresh roll the bones buff and a fresh blade flurry every time that the ads are spawning. Make sure you're not hitting anything that doesn't have between the eyes on it, and you're going to do really well. If this video helped you out, be sure to like, subscribe, share the video, check out my Twitch at chirpy.tv, and I hope to see you guys soon. See ya.